Hey everybody, Jazzy here, and how's it going, Wes? Still alive, I see. You're welcome. By my firm but gentle hand, we have survived the bats, the little shop of horror plants, and most recently the blinding, crippling fog of humid season. But the party is not over yet. No. The allergen-infused winds of change are a-blowing, and we need to make sure that our respiratory systems are adequately equipped in the coming days. I'm talking about Lush season. Lush season is the third of 3 seasons in Don't Starve Hamlet, not counting the apocalypse. By default, it lasts 11 days. Your first Lush season will begin on day 23 and end at the beginning of day 34. The world will have a yellow-green hue during this time, not quite the sepia tint of dry season or summer. The ambient temperature does rise, but never quite enough to overheat you. Just keep that in mind before you eat that turkey dinner. You're never too far away from overheating. There are actually a few good things that happen during this time. First, tuber trees will blossom into blooming tuber trees, which can be hacked with a machete for blooming tubers. You can eat these in raw or cooked form and not worry about being poisoned. The raw version is actually quite good for restoring health, and the cooked version gives a bit of extra sanity and hunger. Sanity management will be a big consideration during this season, as we shall soon see. Bramble blooms grow out of dense collections of brambles and can be destroyed to harvest vines and a bramble bulb. This bulb can be crafted into a dense turf or root trunk, which is a very powerful storage medium. Basically the ender chest of Don't Starve. If you are hunting for bramble bulbs during this season, you can spot them very easily on your map as they have their own icon. Rainforest trees will produce jungle burrs, basically their seeds. You can gather them by chopping a blooming tree, or just let them be and strong winds will occasionally knock them off the tree. You don't even have to replant them, as many burrs left on the ground will automatically plant themselves at the beginning of the next season. Now for the bad Lush season stuff. First, you have the occasional strong winds which will blow certain items on the ground. Be careful if you are basing near the edge of the plateau, because if something blows off it will be lost forever. Also be prepared to repair your walls, as the winds will damage them over time. Wormwood will bloom during Lush season, which will gradually increase his movement speed and hunger drain. I'm calling this a detrimental effect because while the movement speed is modest, the hunger drain is definitely not. Get ready to slam up to twice the amount of food normally needed just to keep from starving. Brambles will grow and snake across the wilderness. They do not grow on city turf, man-made turf, or cultivated turf. So if you are basing in the wilderness, you can cover your camp in these turfs to prevent brambles from growing where you live. Hitting one will deal 3 damage to the player, but because of the overpowered stacking of damage reduction in single player, you can actually negate the damage completely by wearing both head and body armor. They can be destroyed by dealing 40 damage, which is one swing of a halberd with normal damage modifiers. Sorry Wes, that's not you. Defeating a bramble will also clear nearby brambles, so it doesn't take too long to clear a path. Just a bit tedious if you're trying to traverse wild plains or deep forest. The big danger during this season is hayfever, which starts around the top of the 3rd day of Lush and ends on the 2nd day of the following temperate season. You'll see it coming when the yellow-green flickering starts at the edge of your screen and slowly grows toward the center. When it makes its way all the way in, your character will sneeze once or twice. This will lower your sanity by 3 and stun you momentarily, with the chance of up to 4 items in your inventory to fall on the ground. The stun effect can be dangerous if you are in the middle of a fight, and the sanity loss can very quickly drive your character insane. So there are a few options for dealing with hayfever. If you've built an oscillating fan, turning it on and standing in its range will slowly increase the time until your next sneeze. It's a good structure to have in or around any workstation where you will be spending time during Lush. Wearing a gas mask will lock the sneeze counter in place but will not reduce the level. You shouldn't wear it all the time, as it will gradually drain your sanity, which defeats the point of fighting off the sneezing. But it is useful if you are fighting or running away and can't afford to be stun locked. Another option for hayfever is eating seed pods, which drop from tea trees. An uncooked pod will provide 60 seconds of relief, and a cooked pod will provide 2 whole minutes. It's generally better to cook them up, as they will also restore a bit of extra health and hunger. Tea trees are not great for chopping, unfortunately. Fully grown trees will only return 2 logs, and chopping a tree with a pico will destroy the spawner. From my experience, you can't really create additional pico spawners, so I generally leave those trees alone. If you have a separate tea tree farm, then you can munch on seed pods in a pinch, but you need a lot to get through a Lush season, so I wouldn't recommend relying on them too often. The best option for hayfever, hands down, is nettles. When eaten raw, they provide 200 seconds of hayfever relief, but 3 of them cooked into a nettle roll will provide 720 seconds of relief. That's 1.5 in-game days you do not have to worry about sneezing. This is why a good chunk of my first humid season is spent setting up a nettle farm, and I will usually continue to harvest nettles well into my first lush season. I have made a separate guide for farming nettles, and I would recommend you watch it if you haven't already done so. There is one character who cannot benefit from nettles or seed pods, and that character is Wigfred. I recently did a 39-day run to get a sense of her experience during this season, and I will provide a link to the synopsis I made. In short, oscillating fans and gas masks still work with her, but they are short-term solutions. A gas mask can be handy in a situation where you don't want to be sneezing, and the fan can be turned on while working around her base. All other times, Wigfred should just keep fighting if she wants to keep her sanity up. Other restoration options work well too, such as eating jerky, standing near a magic flower, or resting in a tent or siesta lean-to. Personally, I welcome the opportunity to go a little crazy and fight nightmare creatures. But unless you're edgy Rick, you probably don't want to be crazy all the time. Wormwood is immune to hay fever, so just keep on top of the food supply. And Woody in werebeaver form is similarly immune, so if you want to spend the season demolishing a forest, you can certainly stay in this form for an extended time. It's really not out of the question to do it, just keep munching on wood. Okay Wes, you got all that? Ride your invisible bicycle if yes. Okay, cool, let's get started with you. We recently made a bird cage, so let's use some of the silk we collected from the cocoon trees to craft a bird trap and bait it with a seed. We grabbed a few nettle harvests from the humid season weather, so we have a few days before hay fever gives us reason to panic. Might be a good time to throw on some armor and get to mining a hulk and grabbing some iron ore. I prefer the hulk pieces that don't jump around, such as the ribs and the arms. The reason is because you can run around them and continue to mine even while they are active. Just be sure to dodge the laser shots as they can do a lot of damage. We should also clear out some of these brambles to make room for our future nettle farm next to the pond. You should use a fresh handbat for this, otherwise a halberd or spear will take multiple strikes due to your damage modifier. Wear a log suit plus football helm to avoid taking damage from the brambles. We should also dig up the nettle vines now, since you won't get any more natural harvests from the rain. And it is day 25, the start of hay fever. Cook up some rolls with your currently limited supply of nettles. Hopefully those will tide you over until we can set those nettle vines back up. On that note, let's set up our new nettle farm. The sprinkler needs to be close to a pond, and the nettles should be planted around it for hydration. You will need to run back here often to top off the sprinkler, so keep an eye on it for now. Looks like you trapped a redbird. Get him into your bird cage so we can start to make some eggs. But why have a boring redbird when you can get your very own fancy kingfisher as a pet? While we're waiting on those nettles, why not go hunting for some bramble bulbs? They only appear during lush season, so if you see one, go for it. Just wear full armor because it will take a few swings to destroy. Eventually you can craft some of your own dense forest turf and plant your nettles in a more convenient location. Let's also craft a boomerang so we can get around to farming some azure feathers, which you will need to craft a Hogus porcasator. You can also use the key to the city to build your own slanty shanty in the wild and have your very own home in the wilderness. Okay, grab your executive hammer. Time to head into Swinesbury for a few things. First, use the iron ore you grabbed to make some shears and go trim those hedges. You could use a razor on hedges for an unlimited durability tool, but you only get one clipping per hedge and shears will give you 2. So as long as you have the iron, might as well double the production. Also, while you're here, try to hammer a few lampposts and grab the resources. They return all the resources used to build them, and you could definitely use lampposts at your base. Just don't let the guards see you do it. Now, your first impulse will be to unload all of your clippings onto the shopkeep, but if you drop them and let the pigs nibble, you can earn the oink by picking up the plop, and in doing this you can collect manure as well as money. Time for another visit from the BFB. Try luring her into the cultivated biome where she will smash the stone walls and farms for you. The guards will be upset when you pick up the pieces, but at least you don't have to hammer everything by yourself. Alright, we're good on manure for now. Let's trade the rest of our clippings to the shopkeep in your personal grocer. Clippings are a real nice renewable method for making oinks, especially early game. So it's worth your while to play groundskeeper when you're in town. Sorry you're having rotten luck with the birds. Keep that boomerang handy for when a kingfisher or pigeon lands. You'll get those azure feathers eventually. Okay, time to take out the royal guard where BFB came stomping through so we can collect all the resources that she conveniently prepared for you. Let's also set up some of these lampposts. Remember, you don't lose any resources by hammering them, so reposition them as often as you need to. We should also start looking at preparing defenses for the ever-increasing bat waves. The easiest way to gather resources to build your own watchtowers is to hammer the watchtowers in the cultivated biome, because they are usually spread out and easier to take on one at a time. Be sure to hammer the tower first, then deal with the guard. If you kill the guard first, there's a chance that he will just pop back out of the tower when you hammer it. If you do this at dusk or night, the guards will have torches which do less damage than their halberds. In spite of all our preparations, we have found ourselves completely insane. Just take care of the nightmares as best you can and keep harvesting those nettles. Wes has an especially hard time with things due to his low max sanity, so avoiding insanity is often a lost cause. But thankfully, it is the end of Lush season. Congratulations, Wes, you've made it through your first year of Hamlet. Things get much easier from here on out, now that you have preparations in place for dealing effectively with the dangers that these seasons present. Just keep growing those nettles and continue to explore. And before you rejoice too much, remember the apocalypse is coming on day 60. It might be a good time to grab your gas mask, make some food, grab your gunpowder, and set out for the Herald Island. I have made a few guides on finding the apocalypse calendar, so I will trust that Wes has the information he needs to find it on his own. If he needs a refresher, I will leave it to the viewers to decide. But in the meantime, this concludes my series on the Hamlet season guides. It was a massive amount of work and research, and I really hope that you have all found this information useful when surviving on your own in this world, which in my opinion is the most challenging of any Don't Starve DLC. Thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe if you want to see more Don't Starve gameplay videos and guides in the future. And see you next time.